Hi my loves, how's it going? How you guys doing? Welcome if you're new, welcome back if you've seen me before. It's time for me to do my finale for my Beauty A to Z project pan. As fun as it's been, I think I'm pretty much at the point where I've kind of had enough. I'm also extremely bored. I spoke very briefly of me feeling really overwhelmed and kind of bored of panning and the content I have done this year. It's been fun, but at the same time there's a level of commitment that it requires that I do not currently have the energy for, and it feels exhausting, I'll be honest. So I've decided that I'm just going to wrap up this project pan, and for the next maybe like 1.5 months, just under 2 months, I'm going to just experiment and play around with my makeup. Also, it's that part of the year where seasonal depression starts to kick in, so I don't really want to put myself through anything additional unless I really have to. And this project isn't just something I don't really need to be doing. It's something that I would like to do, but it's not something I have necessarily the capacity for, and I would much rather get to the point where I just play around with makeup, I think, and make decision on things whether I want to keep them or not. So I'd rather go down that trajectory than this. But yeah, if you guys like panning content, I will try and still do some sort of panning content next year. I do have a few other panning videos that are going to be going up at some point, or have already gone up before this. I'm not really sure. But if you guys do want to follow me and check me out on other social medias, everything is the same as my YouTube name. Everything is also in my description box. And let's just get right into the video. The first product is the letter A, and this is the About Face Not Your Baby liquid lipstick. I actually really love this formula and I had really enjoyed using this, and I also really love this tone on me. I thought that this was a good sort of like grungy colour that I could use. There's been so many lipsticks, well, liquid lipsticks I wanted to buy, especially from indie brands, but at the moment I'm trying to hold off just because of the sheer amount that I do have. Colours like these are not very common in my collection. However, I do still have a lot of other colours that I could still play around with, and I don't necessarily want to go ahead and just buy something yet. But because I've had this in the project pan, I've kind of also gotten not necessarily bored, but frustrated with the fact that it's a product that is part of a project pan, and I don't want to get to the point where I get sick of this product and then decide to declutter it for that reason. So I'm kind of glad this like finale has come at a pretty good time. This is, I've used it 3 times since the last update, which takes me to 14 out of 50 uses in total. I don't know what I was thinking when I set a lot of these goals. Like 50 uses for this would have been great and doable if I maybe only had 1 or 2 lip products to work on throughout the entire year. But then I had other non-project related goals as well, and that, along with being sick for quite a good chunk of this year, almost all of it, has really put a damper on that. So unfortunately I wasn't able to meet my goals in this. However, I did find a colour and a formula that I truly loved and enjoyed, and I have, honestly, anytime I use this, it just 10 out of 10 loved it. I don't think this brand is necessarily available anymore from Beauty Bay. They have like a few like items left, but I think they're now going to be sold on Space NK. I'm not sure. If it is, I'll just add anything here. But yeah, I'm kind of glad that I was able to use this up. I would like to buy more, but just not right now. The next product is this Beauty Bay liquid eyeshadow in the shade Carnelian. This I've had a love-hate relationship with since I've sort of rolled it in. And then towards the end, I discovered the best way for me to use this was to go in with my normal eye primer, go in with a matte eyeshadow on top to set that primer, use this, and on top of that, add in a shimmer eyeshadow. And honestly, it worked so well and it looked so nice. Lasted all day. There was no creasing, there was no like weirdness that I found. However, this product is way too liquidy for what it should be. Like, it moves around too much. I also think this is expired, but I did use it 4 times since the last update, and that does take me to my total, which is now 15 out of 15 uses. This product, I honestly just kept it around for this project pan, but now that I'm done with this, I am actually going to declutter this because I've had this for so long. I really don't need it. So this one, I've hit goal, which is great, because I can't say that for most products, but it does mean that I do have to actually say goodbye permanently to this product, and I'm kind of glad as well to finally be done with this. For the letter C, we've got this Charlotte Tilbury Amber Gold eyeshadow pot. I got 1 use on this since the last update, which takes me to 5 out of 30 uses. You know, 30 uses would not have been that bad, but I had, again, a very frustrated sort of... I was really frustrated with this product. I think at the start I was really struggling with using this, and anytime I did use it, it used to always crease up, and then it just got to a point where I didn't really think of the product much, and I kind of just... I found it more like a chore. And when it gets to that point with any product, it's usually time to either say goodbye to it for good, or it's time to put it away so I don't have to think about it for a long time, and then I'll naturally gravitate towards it when I no longer feel those feelings towards a product. I could have had 30 uses on this easily, but with the year that I've had and just with everything else that's happened, it was quite hard, and the fact that this product just felt like a chore made it even more difficult for me to use. I'm glad I even got 1 use out of this product, if I'm being honest, because I didn't think I'd even get to that point. But I'm glad to say that. I think I will still keep this around. I do still want to play around with it a little bit more, but I want to put it away so I don't think of it for some time, and then eventually I'll bring it back out and I'll use it again under circumstances when I'm not feeling very tense or stressed out. I think that might be better for me. For the letter D, it was this Dior foundation. This is the Dior Backstay foundation, and I got this in the shade 2.5N. This was a really good summer shade, but in the winter, it just wasn't working for me. It looked way too orange on me because in the summer, I do tan a decent chunk. This was a nice formula. I actually really enjoy this. I think since then, I've heard from people that they've reformulated it. So this is the old formula that I've used. My review on this is just based on this old product. I really liked it. It had a really nice sort of like satiny sort of finish to it. It wasn't fully matte and it wasn't like dewy, and I'm kind of glad it was that sort of in between satin finish. It sat really well on my skin. It didn't oxidize. It didn't feel heavy. It didn't feel cakey. It was buildable to an extent. I don't think I would say that it gives you full coverage, but you can build it up to like an in-between point between medium to full coverage. It sits nicely, and it was lasting, like it was long lasting to a decent extent for me. And I am somebody who has oily skin, and I used to use this in the summertime, and it did last me a good like 6-7 hours before I did get oily. If that was me in the summer, in the winter it would have lasted me even longer than that. But I'm glad that I'm finally able to have used this up. This was like, I think 3-4 years old at this point, and it was expired. Like it stank basically, and I was getting not frustrated, but I was getting to the point I was feeling upset. Like I didn't want to declutter the product. It's obviously so expensive, and I wanted to get my full use out of it. So I finally did. I can't get any more product out. I used to have it upside down, and that's where the markings are for the last 2 months. Well, that would have been the 3rd update, but since then I've kind of used it up and the product's just gone. And I really like this product. At this moment, I've got 2 foundations. Well, one's a skin tint and one's an actual foundation. But I do realise I need one other foundation that I can have. Something just cheap and something I can just like throw on and call it a day. I was tempted to buy the Sheer Glow foundation from NARS. I'm trying to keep like put down pause and maybe just like look into like a cheaper foundation that I can wear, especially if it's just going to be most of the time I'm going to be sat down doing makeup at home. It didn't necessarily make sense for me to buy such an expensive foundation. Again, I will see about that, but that is something I'm going to consider. The fact that I'm now down to just my last 2 foundations is a lot, and I'm so happy that I've come back to that point where I have very minimal like foundations again. I think that is really something that I needed. It does also mean that those 2 foundations that I currently have, I do need to use them, because the skin tint is from 2023. Right at the end of 2023 is when I got it, and it was during Black Friday. And then the other foundation, the NARS one that I have, the long wear foundation, that is from 2024. So I've still had it for some time, and it would be nice to sort of get usage out of both of those. For the letter G, I have this Gucci lipstick that was handed down to me from my cousin. She did not want it. This is a really gorgeous sort of like red, but it's more of a sheer tone. It's not like as opaque as some of these can be, and then you can obviously build up on that, and I really like this. So I've used this twice in total since I don't know what update. I've used this once, so I've only got 2 uses in total, but I have actually made progress in terms of how much product I have used, and I do have to like a show for that. So there you can see here that I've actually made progress on this, and I have used it, even if it's just like a tiny bit. But at least there's some usage on there, honestly. Moving on to letter I, we have Iconic London, and this is the Velvet Smooth Pore Refining Primer, and I've managed to use this up. Well, I managed to use most of it up. That will be me being honest with you. This product did expire in the end, and I think this was breaking me out because when it stank, when I used it all over my face, and that's when I realised it was a bit funky. But then whenever I did do my makeup, after like a long time, I'd sat down and done my makeup, and I used this only like the one primer, and whenever I'd put it on my face, I'd have breakouts literally all over here and here, and there was all those like really, really small ones. I obviously have breakouts all the time, but this was not the typical kind of breakouts that I had. So I kind of gave it a pause, my skin got better, and then I use this again, and there's like 2 or 3 times, and anytime I use this product, it made me break out. So I realised, okay, it's obviously expired and I can no longer use this. So I had about, I want to say, like maybe that much left, and then I had to just toss out anything I could. This is a good product. I did like it. It was okay. I mean, it really did blur and fill in my pores quite nicely, I would say that. But I think it got to the point where I'd maybe had it for too long, and I think I got this in 2023 as well, I want to say. And then obviously it sat for a while, and I'd only gotten around to using it this year, and I want to say it was Black Friday 2023 when I used it, or when I got around to using it. So that's obviously quite a long time to have a product, which is something that I'm trying to avoid doing, especially when it comes to liquid and cream products going forward. Obviously that is something that I'm going to slowly make progress in, but it is just unfortunate that this product had to expire because I was actually enjoying this. It did work really nicely, especially like on my T-zone, well, my T-zone really, like it, and then also like my cheeks here as well. That's where I'd mainly focus it on, and it honestly did look really nice. It is a pricey product, so I don't know if I would necessarily buy this again. I tend to prefer like a grippy primer. I just feel like that helps sometimes keep my foundation on for longer than some of these other like primers. So there is that. I will see. I do have 2 other face primers at the moment, and I'm trying to use both of them. One I'll use more when it comes to like the really cold time of the year, because my skin will really need the extra moisturizer. At this current stage, I'm just using the other grippy primer that I've had for a while, and even that is basically expired, but I'm still using it. So far that hasn't broken me out, but as soon as it does, I will have to throw that away and find a replacement. But this was nice while it lasted. I am trying to just be a little bit more mindful of how much I keep in my backup drawer. The next product is something that I had, but it's not something that I've made use on at any point from like the last, whenever I updated this last. So this is the Dior lipstick in Jardin Dior. Obviously that's not how you say it, but this is the shade 211, and this is such a beautiful lipstick. Like, if I really like that. It looks so beautiful, and honestly I don't really have that much of this left anyway. Literally that's all I have left, and I could have easily used this up. I genuinely don't know why I didn't. Like, I don't really have an explanation for that, but this was a nice product. This is also something that was part of this project pan. I will probably throw this into another project pan next year at some point, because I will be doing a rolling, probably like 10 product project pan, and that will just be going on forever until I decide that I want to quit project panning for the rest of my life, because I've probably gotten sick of it. But this might be something that makes its way into that project pan. There is another one, which is my 50 Shades of Black project pan, that I will continue up until I think April. At least I'm going to try to do that, and then yeah, this might end up making its way in there because I have decluttered some products from that project pan too. I don't really know, but I can definitely see myself using this at some point. Obviously at this current stage where this was kind of like in a drawer with my other project pan products, I just tended to like ignore the product and kind of just move past it. But I do feel like if I was to make like a shop my stash video, or like a shop my stash drawer, I think I'd be more likely to gravitate towards certain products if they're in there, because I'll know that this is the drawer that I have for the month. It'll give me some good options, and if this was in there, then I'd be like, okay, maybe I can try and use that in a look as well. Whereas whenever it comes into like project panning, I do find it more difficult to like stay on top of that part of it. Yeah, it's a nice product. It was really expensive, so it would be nice to actually use this up at some point. Another product I have that I've somewhat made use on, but it's really rare for me to use this is this Lottie London lip mask. This is in the flavour Minted, or I guess the shade Minted as well. Lottie London basically just went bust. I don't even know what the brand owners were doing, or the CEOs. The brand no longer exists, neither does Seattle London. This was a nice product, and I do find this very moisturising and hydrating for the lips. And this is like a perfect mask to use before I do my makeup. But the problem is, it's a potted product, and I hate those products. They irate me, they annoy me to an extent, and I don't really like that, but I also don't like using these. So I think I might declutter this and give it to my mum. I do have some of the lip balms that I can just keep on my makeup desk and use that before I get around to doing my makeup. I can't stand like potted products, so I think I might just let this one go. For the letter N, we've got the NYX Epic Wear Orange Zest Eye Pencil. This is a really nice colour, and I really do enjoy using this. I love a really fun colourful waterline, and I've been using this on and off for the last year or so, and I've made some progress. Ideally, I wanted to have this panned completely. Obviously, I've gone months and months without doing makeup. I might only have like 2 makeup days in an entire month, so progress was very limited. And a lot of the times, if that was the case, I'd usually have to do makeup for a specific event or an occasion, so I wasn't grabbing this product because it didn't go with the vibe or the look or what I was wearing. So yeah, this did get neglected. This is also very old, and I don't know how much longer I will be able to keep this in my collection, because I do have a feeling this might be something that ends up getting decluttered, because it is old and I have very sensitive eyes. So at any point this could be something that has to be decluttered. I will keep this in my makeup bag for the time being, because it is one of the it's my rotational product, or one of the rotational eyeliners I'm currently using. So I'll keep it in there, and if I do get to the point where I do use it again and I realise actually no, that's like really irritating my eyes, I'm just going to declutter it. I do actually have progress here to show you guys. So that line here, which is the furthest one here, is the line that shows the product when I first rolled it in, and the line that's closer to this part of the page, that is the line where the product is now. So clearly there has been some usage of this product, but it's just been very slow. Next up, you've got one of the 3 palettes that I have in this project pan. I'm not gonna lie, that was an overkill, and I really don't know what I was thinking, but this is the Odin's Eye Alva palette, and I've got 4 uses in total. So since the last update, I believe I've got 2 uses, which is really nice, and 2 of those uses was along with that Beauty Bay palette. This is just what the palette looks like. This is the old formula, and I'm not gonna lie, I've had a lot of fun using this. I really have had a lot of fun using this. I definitely want to keep this around until I absolutely can no longer use this palette. I do really enjoy the old Odin's Eye formula. It was really nice. I haven't really used any of the newer formulas, so I can't really comment on that, but the old formula was really good and it was really fun. And the shimmers are really sparkly, and I really did used to like that. I'll just swatch 2 of those for you guys. You can kind of see that, kind of not, but they would work. That was such a poor swatch. Let me try again. There you go. I guess that's slightly better than what it was beforehand. But yeah, it is nice. It looks really good on the eyes. I'm rubbish at swatching, but this was a fun palette to use, and I will like to continue trying to use it, but I think it'd be nice to sort of put this palette away for a while. There's a reason I don't really like panning palettes, because I feel like it gets to a certain point where I get bored, and then rather than me wanting to continue using them, I just want to declutter it. So I could be panning my favourite palette, but if it becomes part of a project and I have a certain target, whether that's usage, whether that's hit and pan, even if it means I'm just using it 5 times, there could be a point I get where I no longer want to use or keep that palette, and it could be my most favourite palette and my most favourite formula. I will get to that point. So to stop me from, I guess, completely losing it and making decisions where I will regret later, I am just going to put this palette away at the end of this, and yeah, just leave it for a couple months, and then I can obviously go back to using this palette again. Next up, we have this Patrick Tar blush, and this is the shade She's Adorable. I love this formula of the blush. I also much prefer like a powder blush to like the duo or even the cream blush, because I don't really gravitate towards cream products that often. This is such a beautiful blush and I really love this tone. On me, it's such a nice like sort of sunburnt kind of like look that it gives, or sun-kissed kind of look, whichever one you prefer. The goal was either to hit pan or to hit 50 uses. Since the last update, I've had 4 more uses in here, which takes me to a 16 out of 50 uses in total. But there's like a nice dip. I don't know if you can necessarily see it, but there is a good sized dip going on in this product, which I'm really glad to see. I do want to maybe put this product away, and I might try and pan it next year instead, because I'm going to do a project pan next year anyway, but I think I might add this in there. And I'm going to really limit how many blushes and highlighters or whatever I try to work on at one time. The maximum I would allow myself is 2. One can be from a face palette, and one can be from a palette, like an actual single like this. This is a nice product, but I have noticed one thing since I've sort of rolled this in at the start, and that is, as I've been using this more and more, there is less pigment in this and there's a lot more kickback, which does mean that this product is getting close to expiring. It's no longer performing the same as it used to. I'm not ready yet to let it go, and I do think I can get some more use out of this. I definitely will try to use up a few more times before I get to that point, and I think I will keep this out anyway, because I do tend to gravitate towards it every now and again. So yeah, I'm definitely going to keep this about and use it whenever I can, really. But I do think that next year it will end up in that rolling project pan that I do. Next, we've got the letter Q, and this is the Becca Rose Quartz Highlighter. This is a nice product. The goal was to hit 50 uses. I have only gotten to 14. So since the last update, I've had 5 new uses. I've been very like specific in targeting the center, and that's where you can kind of see the dip. But this is a product that is pretty hard pressed into the pan, and this will take me a long time to use. The fact that I was even able to get to 14 uses out of 50 is great, but again, I don't know what I was thinking when I hit 50 uses, or when I set the goal of 50 uses, because I have one highlighter as part of my face palette that I'm panning, this highlighter, plus the highlighter that is part of my project pan over on TikTok. So that's 3 highlighters, and for the fact that they're all full size, is not easy to sort of see the same progress on and trying to focus in on all of them. And also there's certain shades that will go with certain makeup looks, sometimes they won't, and a lot of times this doesn't necessarily go with the makeup that I'm doing, so it's hard to sort of like keep this around and use this. But I'm still glad that I got some use out of this, and I will like to put this away for the time being. Next product is for the letter R, and that's the Revolution TGIF lip liner. This is literally all I have left. This is like a really nice little brown tone lip liner, so lip pencil. This was so fun to use, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm just glad I was able to use it up. And I knew that when it got to around the autumn time, I would be able to like fly through this. That's literally what happened. This is a really good creamy formula, but it wasn't too creamy where it was like dripping off your face, but it was creamy to the point that it was soft, but it also sort of kind of like dried down enough on your lips so that it would settle, but it was a lot easier to glide across your lips, because I am sure you guys have used lip pencils that kind of like just scratch at your lips rather than actually just adding product on. This was quite fun to use. Also, I've had this for so long. This was, I think, one of my oldest lip pencils at this point, and I'm glad I've been able to use this up. I really love the colour of this. I really love the formula of this. Do I need any new ones? Absolutely not. I'm sure I've got a deeper, darker brown in my pencil pot of lip pencils, so I'm good. But I'm so glad I was at least able to use up one. For the letter S, I've got the Shard Cosmetics and Batty Bean collab, and this is the palette Hello Bean. This is what it looks like. The goal again was to hit 20 uses. I've only hit 2. So since the last update, or since the last time I used this, I've used this once. So that takes me up to 2 out of 20 uses. Again, I don't know what I was thinking. The more realistic goal would have been to maybe have 5 uses per palette. That is a much more manageable goal for me to keep in mind than to try and hit 20. I don't know what I was thinking, but at the same time, I was expecting myself to be able to sit down and do more makeup looks, especially throughout like for the month of October, for Halloween and stuff like that. And for that, I would have actually gravitated toward this quite often. It just didn't happen. Things were just intense, but I guess it is what it is. I was considering to declutter this, but last time I used it, I actually really enjoyed this, and I realized both of these are not exactly like I guess they give off a duochrome look on the eyes in the palette, and when you swatch it, it doesn't really give that, but when I use it on my eyes, it's when I can really sort of see it. And last time I used it, I really liked it. I don't think I have a picture, otherwise I would have put it somewhere. But I had a lot of fun with this, and I think I want to keep this. It's obviously a palette that's a little bit more difficult for me to use, just because of the types of tones that are in here, and I'm not that good at doing makeup, so I do have a harder time with doing makeup with the deeper sort of colours. But this was a really fun palette, so I am going to keep this. Next, I have another lip liner, and this is Minute Man from Colourpop. This was for the letter T, and honestly, I have actually made some use on this, which is all I could really hope for when I did roll this in. This is how much I have left, but I do still have the rest of the year to try and use this up. I don't know if I'll be able to pan the whole product by the end of the year, but I know I can definitely get more use out of this product till the end. I have actually made progress online to show you guys. So there has always been steady progress along, and this is the line where I'm currently at now. So that's still like a decent chunk of lip liner that I have used. It's just a shame that I didn't use this more, so I could have actually used it up. But that being said, I have actually still managed to use this up quite a lot, and it's better the fact that I even got some use out of it than none. But that being said, I do still have a chunk of the year left, so about just under 2 months, so I can still try and maybe experiment and use this up, hopefully use it up, but if not, at least make some more progress on it. Next, we've got the last palette, and this is the Oma Beauty Coming to America collab. This is the palette Royal Heritage, and this is a really fun palette, but it is kind of blinding, so I'm going to hold it at an angle. So this is what the palette itself looks like. I have now used this once, I believe, since the last time. Yeah, I've had one new use on it since I last updated this project pan with this palette. That takes me again 2 out of 20 uses, so again, not looking too good, but I'm glad that at least I have had some use out of this. I would like to put this palette away just because I want to kind of get it out of my mind that I've had this palette in a project pan, so that I can naturally sort of gravitate towards this palette at some point. I'm also in the process of trying to let go of some more eyeshadow palettes. I have a declutter coming up at some point. I don't know if you'll see any of the decluttered videos before this video, or you'll see this first and then all the declutters will come out afterwards. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to work out, but it'll be in some order that I post it. But this palette I've always enjoyed using, and the formula of this is really, really good. So I don't want to get to the point where I declutter it and then regret it later on. So I'd rather just put it away for the time being, so I can always come back to this palette and enjoy it again at a later time. For the letter V, I've got this Victoria Beckham lipstick in the shade Pout. This is a really nice sort of colour as well. That's a really good, like, everyday sort of colour, and I really enjoyed using this. I've also used a decent chunk of this product. I've had 2 new uses since the last time I spoke about this as part of this project plan, which takes me to 10 out of 30 uses. That's an okay amount to have used, but I do feel like had I remembered this product a little bit more, or had I done slightly more like pinkier looks, I probably would have ended up using this up completely. But that being said, I still have had some usage to actually show for this product. So these are sort of like the various updates that I've had throughout the time. You can kind of see there's been small progress here and there, but there has still been progress. And this line that's closer to this part of the page, that's been the last line, and I just made that today. So it's still good to see that at least I have had some usage out of this, but it would be really nice to sort of try and maybe get some use out of this outside of this project pan. I have a wedding coming up soon, and that'll probably be before I post this video, or maybe the day before. I'm not entirely sure when I'll post this. Again, I've just got some content like pre-recorded that I want to get rid of as well, so I'm not really sure in what order I will be posting this video. But yeah, I do have a wedding coming up, and I'm sure I can still sit down and do some more makeup. At the moment, I've kind of been obsessed with like very sort of autumnal lips, and this was one that I really wanted to do today. So I've just kind of like been playing around with whatever I really feel like playing around with. But I think once that pressure of this being part of a project pan kind of goes, I think I'll probably end up getting some more use out of that anyway. Next, we've got the second blush as part of this project pan. This was the Colourpop and the Disney High School Musical collab. This is the shade Wildcat, and I've actually used this quite a lot. I really do like this sort of very light pinky sort of neutrally leaning blush, and there's a decent sized dip going on in this, Since the last time I spoke about this, I believe I've had 2 new uses, which takes me to 15 out of 25 uses. By the end of the year, I'm pretty sure I'll have used this another 10 times, and that'll conclude the whole thing, and I would have hit like the goals on here. Do I necessarily want to keep track or tally of this? I don't really think so. This is a good blush to use, especially when I have looks that require the eyes to be the focal point and I don't want to distract them by doing blush. I'll add a touch of this just to give me a little bit of colour. Like today, it's not too much, but it's a really beautiful like shade. It's not too much, it's not tony face, but it's all like, it's like a little touch of colour, and it's just perfect for those very like specific looks that you might do. And I really enjoyed using this product. But yeah, I don't know, I think it would be nice to maybe put this away for some time though as well, and maybe get use out of some of the other blushes because I have so many, and it would be nice to maybe play around with some others and see if I want to keep those or not, because I can always declutter blushes to friends and family, and I can also sell them on Vinted, especially if it's powder, because it's a lot easier to like disinfect and sell. Also, anything that I post or anything I declutter will always end up on my Vinted, and I may not always post stuff on my Vinted as I post the video. Some stuff will end up on there a lot sooner, so if you guys are just ever interested in what I maybe sell, just my Vintage is part of my description, so you can check me out over there. For the letter X, I actually had the Melt and Bailey Sarine collab. It was a little like glitter gel thing, like it was a eyeshadow sort of thing, but it dried out. The first time I barely managed to get some use out of it, but then after that it completely dried up, and I kept forgetting to like use it or post about it. But since then I've actually recycled it already with Boots, so I no longer actually have the product on here. If I can, I'll remember to post a picture somewhere. It was a nice sort of like colour. The formula initially was really good as well, and I had a lot of fun using it. However, that being said, it was a pain in the ass, the fact that it dried out so quickly, and I realised same thing happened with 3 or 4 of my other Melt Cosmetics products. So I don't think I necessarily want to buy any more of those products from Melt, or at least limit how much or what I specifically buy, because a lot of stuff is really fun and nice, but then you do have products that expire so quickly, and I don't want to have to deal with that, especially when you have a large collection. It can then be really difficult to like prioritize and sort of remember to use everything. So I don't think I'll be buying those types of products for a long time. Again, it's something we'll see, but it was such a shame because the product itself was actually really fun to use. For the letter Y, I have this really deep dark brown shade from Kaleidos in the shade Mahogany, and I will swatch that for you guys too. This has been quite a nice lip product to use, and I like the fact that it's more of like a moussey kind of texture. Since my last update, I've spoken about this, I've used this twice. That takes me to 7 out of 15 uses, and I have actually gotten most of the uses during the sort of like autumn time, even though it's been 2 or 3. I think actually I've used it more than twice. I'm pretty certain I have, and I've not calculated it because I know that for autumn, for the September, October time, I've actually used this a few times as part of my makeup looks, but it is what it is. But yeah, I'm glad I've actually got some use out of this before I may have to throw this away. I would like to get some more use out of this before I put this away. I think it's a lovely colour, especially for like October, November time, and then I will obviously move over to other sort of colours to use and play around with. But this is a really nice formula, and I do really like Kaleidos makeup in general. I have a good chunk of their stuff, like I have a lot of their products. They do have some really fun things, so I have a feeling they may be coming out with a new collection soon. I really hope they do, because it's been a long time since they've actually released something, and it would be nice to see something new from Kaleidos, just because their products are generally so good and they're very creative, and I love that they're constantly posting all over like their TikToks and their Instagrams, and they always like post about their products, and they make really fun creative looks as well, and I really love that. Last product is also a lip liner. This is from Zoeva. This is the shade Blooming Impression, and I have had some use on this product, and I can actually show you guys the progress. It's not that much, but you can still see here. So that's obviously where I was at the beginning, that was like the longest and closest line to here, and I've made gradual progress. So this is where I am now. I mean, that's still a lot of like lip pencil to get through, but I've still made progress, and I think that was the main thing. Like, at least I've used it up to an extent. There is no way for me to use this up by the end of the year, and instead I might focus on 2 of my other lip pencils that I'm more likely to finish before the end of the year than this one. But if I can get some more use out of this, I definitely will try, just because then maybe next year I can then pan it up. I have so many lip pencils at this point and it's too much, and I don't need that many. I have specific colours that I'd probably want, specific shades I'd probably want, but other than that, realistically I don't need more than like 15, pushing it maybe 20, but like that's about it. And I have close to maybe, I want to say 80, possibly more than that, I'm not really sure, but it's a lot for someone who doesn't do makeup that often. So it would be nice if I could maybe use up the other lip pencil and then get some more progress on this. But obviously outside of like the project planning sort of fair. But that is literally everything. I'm so glad to finally wrap up this project plan. Okay, that is everything for this video. Thank you for watching this far. I really do appreciate it. I'm so glad to get to that point where I can finally just call it done for this project plan and put most of these products away. And hopefully I can take a break from panning and then maybe come back with a more positive attitude towards it, and maybe like actually enjoy it rather than feeling constantly stressed or dread about it, or feeling like these products are a chore. I think that'd be kind of nice to sort of see. So I think next year I am gonna try and do a rolling project plan, but have it very limited, so like maybe 10 products max. Like that's like the absolute max. But that's everything for today. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll catch you next week for another video. Bye.